So let's begin today. Your economic plan. And I was looking into it. Is it still the 29-point plan, or has there been any changes?
I have two plans that have been released so far. The first one is about making life more affordable for Americans and certainly for Illinoisans. And the second one is to make sure that we're expanding access to opportunities for the middle class.
Can we talk about the first one?
Sure.
So, one of the questions that we did reach out is, has the American dream become unaffordable?
Well, look, what I always say is that we know that life has simply become too expensive. And I'm talking to Illinoisans all across the state. And I would say that affordability is the number one issue that comes up, whether it's housing or healthcare, groceries or gas, utilities. People just feel like life is too expensive. And we know that we have a president and Donald Trump who said that on day one he was going to lower the president who said he was going to lower the price of groceries, that he was going to bring down inflation. And he hasn't done any of that. In fact, everything has gotten worse for Illinois families and American families as a whole. And so, number one on my plan is to make life more affordable. We need to raise wages. We need to make sure that we are making healthcare more accessible and affordable. And we need to really give a tax break to middle class families. And we can pay for that by raising taxes on those making $1 million or more. Those are all things that I talk about in detail in my affordability plan that can be found at julianastratton.com.
Now, your second economic plan, is there anything specific about that that you would like to highlight? Like, what are the key points to the second plan that you've released?
The second plan is all focused on expanding access to the middle class, access to opportunity. When we talk about the American dream, it really requires making sure that there's access to opportunity, and that begins for me with education. I'm proud of what we've done here in Illinois to make sure that we expand access to education, whether it's early childhood, K through 12, or higher education. But we know that we have a president right now and an administration in Washington that is working to dismantle the Department of Education piece by piece. And that means more people, more young people, won't have access to the education that they need, which is critical for a pathway to the middle class. So my plan includes restoring and rebuilding the Department of Education, and certainly make sure that we expand access to trades and technical education, and making sure people know that everyone is not going to go after a four-year degree. There's lots of different ways and pathways to a good paying job. And it's making sure that we support our small businesses. I've been a champion for small businesses throughout my tenure as lieutenant governor. Small businesses are the lifeblood of our communities. And we need to not only help people to start businesses, but we need to make sure that those businesses can grow. And one of the ways that we can do that at the federal level is by making sure that we don't just focus on loans for small business owners, but we focus on grants so that those businesses, those entrepreneurs can start and grow their businesses.
Perfect. According to and this next set of questions, they were written by our Mark Hespin here at the station. He is very keen on deep diving for information. So there's going to be some numbers in here. If you need a little bit of extra time to answer them, then take as much time as you need. But this first one, according to census data, Illinois lost almost 300,000 people between the last two censuses, while the US has gained about 7% growth in population. What needs to be done to make Illinois a state that sees population growth over the next decade?
Well, I'm really proud of the investments that Governor Pritzker and I have made here in Illinois. We've worked hard to create a pro-business environment, which is important because we know that we not only want to support our small businesses, as I just spoke about, but we want to make sure that we're attracting business to our state, and we have done that. I'm so proud of all of the ribbon cuttings and investments and finding shovel-ready sites all across our state to make sure that we can invest and make sure that we are attracting business, which is critically important. The other thing that I want to say is one of the things that brings real stability to our state is making sure that we have a stable fiscal environment. And I think about how when Governor Pritzker and I took office, we had gone almost 2 years without a budget here in the state under our previous governor. But under our administration, we have passed 7 consecutive balanced budgets. We've also earned 10 credit rating upgrades. And we've paid down our rainy day fund, paid down our bill, I mean, sorry, built up our rainy day fund and paid down our bill backlog. Those are examples of how we have continued to prioritize fiscal stability and making sure that Illinois is on the right track. There's always more work to do, but those are the kinds of things that will really bring the stability that can not just attract businesses, but help our educational institutions be more secure and stable, make sure that families know that this is a state that's moving forward. And I'm proud of the progress that we have made.
Senator Durbin, and this is a question that was because the we started this before the new year, so some of these questions will take from last year's uh, things that happened. Senator Durbin was one of the few Democratic senators who voted with Republicans to reopen the government during the shutdown. Would you have done the same?
I have deep respect for Senator Durbin, but as I have said before, I disagree with that decision and that vote. I would, I'm from the perspective that we should have held the line as Democrats, that this was an opportunity to really demonstrate some real courage and strength in the wake of an effort to try to strip away health care from millions of Americans, which is exactly what this president and congressional Republicans are doing. I know that it was not, uh, a great situation when we see a president who is using food assistance as a bargaining chip. But here's what I know as somebody who has been a mediator for over 2 decades of my career, someone who has taught negotiation skills. You cannot go to the negotiating table with someone who comes to the table in bad faith. And Donald Trump and congressional Republicans continue to come to the table in bad faith. They have no intention of doing what's right by the people of Illinois. As the next United States Senator for this state, I will always put the needs of Illinoisans right at the center. It's one of the reasons why I'm not accepting any corporate PAC money in this race, and I'm the only candidate that's made the commitment not to do so. I believe it's important that we center the people of Illinois, the working families of Illinois, and not corporate special interest. And I believe that's why I'm always going to be someone who brings the kind of fight that's needed that people are looking for and the kind of fight that people deserve.
Now, a quick change in topic here. Polling data shows that at least 70% of Americans believe that biological males should have no place in women's sports. Now, early last year, both Senator Duckworth and Durbin voted no on the Protect Women in Sports Act. Would you have voted no should biological males compete in girls' sports in high schools in Illinois? And just to reiterate, this was again when we started this last year, this topic was still ongoing. And just in fairness, wanted to give you a chance to respond to it right now.
Look, what we are seeing all across this country, led by President Trump and people in his circle, is a real effort to try to find individual cases where they can bully children. And let me tell you what I am not in favor of: picking on children and picking on our most vulnerable. And that is what we are seeing them do. Listen, here in Illinois, I'm proud of the fact that we have always stood up for our LGBTQ plus communities. I've always been an ally to our LGBTQ plus communities, including our trans youth, and I always will be. And I think that we all need to look at ourselves at this moment and ask ourselves the question, why do we have a president who has spent so much time trying to bully children. It's unacceptable.
Another big issue from this previous year was the passage of the Big Beautiful Bill. Um, in this, there was the no tax on tips. However, Illinois, along
Can
with
you
Maine,
repeat that, please? In this,
oh,
there was the what?
the no tax on tips
Mm.
section of the bill. However, Illinois, along with Maine and the District of Columbia, has decided not to accept that and continue to tax tips. Do you support taxing tips?
Listen, what I have always said from the very beginning of my campaign is that we have to address affordability. And I want to raise wages. That is important to me. In fact, in my affordability plan, which everyone can find at julianastratton.com, you will find that number one is raising wages. We know that right now, I'm proud of the fact that here in Illinois, we were able to raise the minimum wage. That was the first major bill that Governor Pritzker signed into law when we took office. We worked alongside organized labor to raise the minimum wage here in Illinois. It started at $8.25. We raised it to $15 an hour. But here's what we know. $15 an hour is $31,200 per year. And that specifically impacts women, it impacts families, people with children. And at the federal level, the federal minimum wage is only $7.25 an hour. So that's half of that. So one of the things that I want to do is I want to, first of all, raise wages. I've actually proposed raising the minimum wage at the federal level to $25 an hour because we cannot continue to have this patchwork where every single state is different. People making $30,000 a year or $15,000 a year is not enough to put food on the table, and we all know that. The second thing is I want to, again, see a tax break for the middle class and pay for it by raising taxes on those making $1 million or more. We know that we are seeing Donald Trump's rampant corporate greed, skyrocketing prices, and so much that is happening that is making food, healthcare, housing, and so much more utilities just too expensive. And it's middle and working class families that are bearing the brunt of this. And so I want to see us raise taxes on those making $1 million or more and giving a tax break to our working and middle class families. That's what's going to help us to continue to not just stimulate the economy, but make sure that everyday Illinoisans can make sure that they are able to thrive.